Welcome back here to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. My name is Hunter on this Sunday, November the 2nd, 2025. And in this forecast, we're going to be talking about two big storm systems moving across the United States and North America, in which they could bring some snow, also some heavy rain and severe weather. We'll look at the middle of November as a big time storm system looks to move across the Central Plains in this forecast. If you are here, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We cover Canada, the United States, the tropics, and also we cover your local forecast. So when it's snowing in the east, we're going to cover it. If it snows in the west, we're going to cover it. So subscribe to the channel. Make sure to like the video, give it a thumbs up, as many likes as we can get, and also share this video with a friend, family member, and even on social media. So let's get in and talk about our temperatures here on this Sunday, November 2nd. A little bit cooler than normal across portions of the east, especially down here into the southeast Tennessee Valley region. So Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, northern Georgia, these temperatures are a good 20 degrees below normal for what we should see here to start November. In contrast, areas along the front range of the eastern Rockies, in particular eastern Colorado, up into Nebraska and western Kansas, are the opposite. We're 25 to 30 degrees above normal and even record-breaking temperatures on this Sunday afternoon. We are looking at the jet stream here now at the 500 millibar level, so this is your mid-level jet, and this identifies troughs or ridges. A trough will bring active weather in the form of cloud cover, precipitation, and storm systems. You can see a little bit of a smaller trough across the southeast, meaning we're going to have some unsettled weather here on this Sunday afternoon across that region, and that is why we're particularly having cooler than normal temperatures down here, because that trough is overhead bringing us those cloud cover on this Sunday. This could bring some sporadic rain. I'm not expecting a lot of rainfall here this afternoon across Tennessee, but there could be areas east of Nashville, say into Crossville, over there into Chattanooga, into Knoxville, that could see upwards to a half an inch worth of rainfall as we go through 7 a.m. on Monday, November 3rd. Also some rainfall over here into eastern North Carolina, coastal Virginia, down into portions of northeastern South Carolina, so Myrtle Beach on northward towards Wilmington, North Carolina, could be seeing again upwards to a half inch of rainfall. Other than that, we have some active weather there in the Pacific Northwest, but a lot of the central United States is pretty quiet and void of rainfall for the rest of this weekend. Let's look here at the week ahead, because this ridge that you can see in orange is going to bring us some delightful weather and actually some early spring-like temperatures back to the United States for the week ahead. You can see as we go into Tuesday, that ridge really establishes across the United States, and then as we go into Wednesday, it continues. There will be buckles in the ridge over the top here as we go towards late in the week. You can see the blue areas develop. That is a trough, and that will bring us some active weather to the upper Midwest, Great Lakes region, in the Ohio Valley as we end the week on Friday, November 7th, and going in towards a week from now by Sunday, November 9th, another big trough coming in over top that ridge there into the eastern United States. So looking at our temperatures for the week ahead, our anomalies during that 5-day period, Monday, November 3rd through Friday, November 7th, it's going to trend warmer than normal, and you're going to feel it here across a good chunk of the western half of the country. In the eastern seaboard, Maine and say Virginia, all the way down here to Georgia and Florida and everywhere in between, we're going to see near normal temperatures to below normal temperatures for the week ahead. So let's identify those temperatures and how warm they could get. So tomorrow afternoon, on Monday, November 3rd, we could be seeing 60s as far north as Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, even into Chicago there along the lakefront. And then as we go into Tuesday, a big surge in our temperatures northward as we have a southerly wind component. And southerly winds, no matter what time of year, will start to bring you some warmer temperatures. 70s will be potentially as far north as Nebraska and southern Iowa. Maybe record highs in Amarillo at 83 there on Tuesday. Going into Wednesday, same deal. And then Thursday, we see a couple of the storm systems coming together. So warmer south, colder north. And it could be pretty chilly up here in towards Friday afternoon, November 7th in North Dakota. Northern Minnesota could be barely getting into the 40-degree mark there. So it's going to be very chilly to end the week and heading in towards next weekend. Looking at the low temperatures here, it will start chilly on the majority of these days, but even the overnight lows, especially by midweek on Wednesday, November 5th, the morning of, you're heading out to work, you're heading out to school, you're probably stepping out the door and saying, well, it's not as cold And that may be true because our low temperatures will be into the 40s, near 50 to start off the day from Chicago to Indianapolis to St. Louis, all the way back down into Little Rock, even 50s down here toward Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Dallas, starting off there on Wednesday and even Thursday. And then a couple punches of cold air for a couple mornings after that, and then it rebounds right back. We have 40-degree temperatures to start the day there on Friday. So looking at the precipitation for the week ahead, again, this is between tomorrow, Monday, November 3rd, and Friday, November 7th. A little bit drier with the brown here. That means drier weather for the central and eastern U.S. And then we start to trend wetter as we go further west, especially for the West Coast. Washington State, Western Oregon, Northern, perhaps even Central California. We'll definitely be watching our weather out there because we got a couple buckles in our jet stream and we're going to walk through it here. And you can see the big ridge is kind of flattening across the United States. So a pretty inactive early part to the week. Once we get past Wednesday, November 5th, we're going to start to see these troughs come to fruition in a series. We got a little bit of a trough here in the Great Lakes by next Friday, November 7th. And then we got a bigger storm system potentially by next Sunday, a week from today on November 9th, and then potentially even bigger storm beyond that we'll talk about here in a minute. But looking at the precipitation going through the week ahead, we got a little bit of some rain activity on Monday across Quebec, Ontario, and into the Northeast. With that ridge in place, though, plenty of sunshine with some fair weather cumulus clouds out there. Temperatures will be warming up across the middle of the country, so A-OK the first couple of days. Here comes a little bit of some active weather in the Pacific Northwest on Monday, Tuesday. Could bring some lighter rain, higher elevation snow. Then going into Wednesday, November 5th, we have another bigger storm coming into the Pacific Northwest. This could be bringing us, again, another bout of some heavy rain and some heavy snow, and then that system will traverse over the top of that ridge that we were showing you. So on Friday, November 7th, that could bring a cold front down across areas, say Detroit, Grand Rapids, Indianapolis, Chicago, and St. Louis. Maybe some rainfall there, not looking at a washout, but definitely keeping an eye on the rainfall. And then there we go again, another big storm system in the Pacific Northwest for next weekend. And then there's that bigger trough coming in a little bit further south this time on Sunday, November 9th, a week from today. And that could actually mix in with some cooler air coming in from Canada, and that could bring some snow flurries to areas of the eastern Dakotas and as far south as central Minnesota by the Twin Cities region going into next weekend. Overall, next week, not going to be a terribly active week, but we could be seeing some rainfall there from the Midwest into the Ohio Valley, especially picking up with that rainfall upwards to an inch into the interior part of the Northeast there. Upstate New York, northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, into Maine, and then northward into Quebec out there. But out west, it's going to be a deluge of rainfall with multiple storm systems coming in here every 1 to 3 days. And this is going to be producing anywhere from 2 to as much as 6 inches worth of rainfall from northern California into western Oregon. So Portland, Eugene, and Medford, all the way up northward into Washington State, Olympia, and Seattle are included with that. And that could even extend down into the Sacramento Valley of Central California, albeit some lower amounts the further south you go there in California. Here's the probability of snowfall of an inch or more. Notice the snow line is going to be well north, so while there could be some snow flurries as we get towards next weekend into central Minnesota, the eastern Dakotas, it shouldn't really be a measurable snow. But there could definitely be some snow flurries. I think the more measurable snow of an inch or more will be further north into Canada, into the higher elevations of, say, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and Utah, and the Rockies, or the Pacific Northwest or Pacific Southwest, right? The Cascades in Washington State and Oregon, or the Sierra Mountains there in California. Now we look here at the second week of November, the 10th through the 15th, and you can see that ridge, again, is going to build across the central United States with the trough exiting across the East Coast, and a new trough coming in across the West Coast. And what that will mean is ahead of our next storm system, mid-November, we're going to warm those temperatures back up. Our winds are going to steer in from the south, and that will keep our temperatures up into the 60s, perhaps 70s again. And here comes a pretty significant buckle in our jet stream once we get towards mid-month. And this one could be a more serious storm system. If it does materialize here, this would be a negatively tilted trough as advertised on the European model. Now, it is 2 weeks out, so this could change several times, but just to give you an idea, mid-November, we're getting into that second season for severe weather season, so as we get towards the middle and late portion of the following week, a bigger cyclone could develop there into the Central Plains. This would be down to 971 millibars. That would create a blizzard on the backside with heavy rain and severe weather on the leading edge of that storm. as we go towards that following week and weekend. And you can see it could pull a lot of moisture north, dew points in the 50s, 60s, a lot of instability. This is your convective available potential energy for severe weather. And then of course it could produce some heavy rainfall. Here's the European model showing some pretty heavy rainfall getting in towards mid-November with potentially that bigger storm system. The GFS doesn't have as big of a storm system. It's more progressive, but it does have a storm in the central US. So there is agreement that there will be a storm likely in the central US in mid-November. The intensity, the track, the overall features with this storm will obviously become a little bit clearer as we get closer. But just to give you an idea, if the worst case scenario did unfold, we could see a foot of snow in portions of the northern United States in mid-November. Or if the better case scenario came, it'll be more of a warm storm, so we'll see more rain versus snow. But getting an idea that once we get into mid-November, a bigger storm system can develop. We're getting into the second severe weather season here in mid-November. This is what we typically see in fall. You see these cold sides of the storm bringing blizzard sometimes, some heavy snow, and then maybe a transition zone with some sleet, freezing rain. And then you have more heavy rain and severe weather on the warm side that we'd have to watch further east and south. So that will be something to keep an eye on. Just kind of running down some scenarios with you. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Of course, we cover Canada, the United States, the tropics. We'll continue to do so in each and every one of my videos. Like the video, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also share it with a friend, family member, and on social media. Also, remember, the more likes, the more shares, the better it is for people viewing this video. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend out there.